a lot of people say, oh, TikTok and all this social media stuff is really bad. I'm going to counteract that and say, look, I think it's really great. I have been able to connect to my condition, to learn from it because of things like the internet, YouTube. There's some great people on YouTube that are worth having a look at if if you're dealing with this sort of situation. One of them is how to ADHD. I came across that as one of the first channels that I discovered when I, was diagnosed. And the woman that presents it, she is ADHD, and she really covers so much of what the experience is, and going into some of the more ways in which you can combat that, and certainly other ways in which you can celebrate it too. And I think that's the important part as well, is to be able to celebrate your uniqueness, your own individuality, your own condition, and go, hey, it's not the greatest thing in the world because of the way society works, but it's a case of it makes me me. I think if you can encompass that as an expression of who you are, that look, I am ADHD. However, these are the other things that I am. I am a person in myself. And I am not the condition. I am this, and being aware of that and encompassing these aspects that affect us as a part of who we are, but not defining who we are, I think is very important.
I absolutely love it, Jeff. If you ever need to celebrate, just get me to tag along. I'll celebrate all walks of life.
I do it every day. I'm alive. So.
I love it. Within your age bracket, Jeff, how many people do you think have reached adulthood and deal with the challenge of neurodiversity that weren't attended to in their formative and adolescent years?
It's something that I would actually have to look into statistics of. Now, with ADHD, some people do grow out of it, their brains develop. And when it comes to the ADHD, I kind of fell out of it and hit a lot of branches on the way down. So some people might not have been heavily as affected by it, but growing brains are growing brains. So it's kind of, unless they're really, hitting every branch on the way down, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. But some people do grow out of it. Their brains kick in, they develop the receptors, and the brain chemistry is fine. It's not something that is really, I would put down to anything environmental. It's more of a genetic thing. So other aspects can come into it. But also with ADHD, other what they call comorbidities can often surround it. And those comorbidities may actually mask the underlying ADHD. And this is where it becomes difficult for those that have other neurological disorders, such as schizophrenia, for example. Bipolar disorder can sometimes be surrounded by. Also, people that have on the autism spectrum sometimes display ADHD as well. And some of those can actually mask. So it's a little bit more difficult for people that haven't been diagnosed to come out, because there might be other issues surrounding it that might be masking it and not getting to that ADHD issue. So it can be, as for those that have been gone through it, there'll be a lot. I think people are also on social media, they're doom scrolling and everything like that. And one thing I'll certainly touch on is what's known as brain plasticity. So brains basically mold to the environment that they're in a lot of cases. So when you're training a brain, for example, and this is what you're doing when you're on social media and you're scrolling through on your phone or on the laptop, or you're watching YouTube shorts and everything like that, your attention span will decrease. And the main reason being is because you're training your brain to do that. You're training your brain to take in information quickly and soak it in and done. You want to stop that from happening, read a book, watch a long movie. You've got to focus your brain a little bit. And like for me, I've had to, I got into reading, which was great, and that really helped overcome a lot of difficulties I had with ADHD, oddly enough. instant information, instant gratification. Yeah, it's just brain plasticity. You can retrain your brain. That can be done.
I think the worst part about the evolution in technology is that the training of the brain is reduction of attention spans, and that to me is a form of a devil. Might sound extreme, but fight the devil encompasses many different things. One of those things in this day
Yeah,
and age is that I'm doing everything I can at 27 years old to still have hope that we are not all completely sucked in like zombies. It does get
yeah.
difficult at times, but what's your thoughts, Jeff?
Okay. There is a theory about hunters and farmers, and this is another argument. Hunters had to be aware of their surroundings, quick observation, quick deduction. They had to be able to follow tracks. They had to be able to hear, is the saber-toothed tiger going to nibble on my noggin, for example? So, as hunters, we had to be aware of our surroundings, where the prey are, where our fellow hunters are, so we could work as a team. ADHD kind of works really well for that because you've got this instant, yep, I can see what's happening. I'm active and I'm hyper focused on what I'm doing. Farmers, on the other hand, had to have that slow, methodical, I need to water the crops. I'm going to check that they're going okay. It was a long term focus. And this is where brains kind of developed into the way in which they are. So, because we're not hunting, we're not gathering as much. Our lifestyle has now shifted into a neurotypical. That is, that you can focus for long periods of time. You can do all this sort of stuff. Your attention is focused where it's meant to be. As hunters, we had to have focus all over the place. We'd take in bits and pieces here and there and everywhere as a survival mechanism. And it's a theory called the hunters and farmers theory. Some brains, 10% to 15% of the population, are geared towards hunting. The rest of us, who are farmers or neurotypical, who are farmers, had the ability to be able to focus, to be able to prepare meals, prepare skins, paint the cave, all that kind of stuff. So it was a very different, and it's an evolutionary thing. So I think what a lot of people do, especially with social media, it's tapping into that hunting mechanism within the brain because we're hunting for dopamine. And this is where social media really comes into it. And it's really geared towards providing those dopamine hits. So you're doom scrolling. Look, TikTok is great because it basically finds what you like through an algorithm, presents you with more of that. So you're getting more and more dopamine hits. And it's not that you don't have attention, your attention isn't focused where it's meant to be. And this is what all social media companies are really out to do. They're out to capture your attention. When they have your attention, then they can present ads and therefore revenue. So there's a saying in the cybersphere, is it, where if the product's for free, you are the product. And it's exactly what social media is. You are the product. They're not there for you, they're there for advertisers. You are the product to these advertisers. And when you're aware of that, you can go, yeah, I'm not going to doom scroll any further. I'm as much a victim of it still as anyone else. We love hearing about the computer game we're into, or the cover of a song that you really like, or a certain personality that's on social media that we tend to follow because we like what they say, or we associate with that, and it's that algorithm that does that, draws your attention away. Yeah.
Yes, it certainly does, Jeff. And given your upbringing and your schooling experience, definitely a much different time in the world of technology. Did you have
Mhm.
mentors and teachers around you that supported your needs? And what hope do you have for children now attending school with the ever increasing technology drawing the attention away?
Look, I've got to admit, I love the new laws that are coming into place with social media. I think it's a Australia's a great place to test this, and I hope the rest of the world, look at what the results are, because I think what social media does is, look, there are some positive things, and I've experienced a lot of positive stuff out of social media, but there are some negatives, and especially for kids. Now, on an ADHD front, I think schools and teachers are a lot more aware. The information is so much more readily available, it's easily identifiable. And from my understanding, now I'm not in the teaching sphere at all, but they're able to basically identify kids that might be, well, apart from the ones that are bouncing off the walls and causing absolute chaos, they're definitely ADHD. But the type that I am, which is the quiet, subdued, off with the fairies type, I think they're able to identify them a little bit better now. Back in my day, when I was going through school, because I didn't pay attention and I didn't care what was going on, I was put in special ed class. I didn't like being in special ed, so I paid attention to what was going in class, and I was probably one of the top students afterwards because I didn't want to go back with the morons.
Yeah.
Um, I found that really upsetting. I tended to think I was a little bit more intellectually gifted than some, and I thought I better prove it. Well, I failed a bit here and there, that's for sure. But yeah, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be looked down on. I didn't want to be seen as deficient like that. And yeah, I kind of it was a bit of a smack on the bum for me back in the day. You know, pull your head out and actually do the work and pay attention. I think that's the other thing that I think's probably improved a little bit is that kids that are more what's now kind of defining as cognitive disengagement syndrome means that they don't care. It's the reality. It's a case of they're not mentally engaged, they're not intellectually engaged because their heads are off elsewhere. They're disengaged with what's in front of them and processing other stuff. And I think teachers, and I'm hoping teachers are a little bit more aware to pay attention to some of the quiet kids that might not be doing so great. You know, being able to provide that interaction. And I think that's one of, the teachers that I really found good were the ones that were more interactive. It wasn't just shit on the blackboard. Learn this stuff. It's a case of let's get you more interactive. Let's discuss this topic. That to me, which was more engaging, got me thinking about what's in front of me. And I think it's the engagement aspect that teachers might be able to bring out these days, though on the other side, I think teachers are probably overworked with larger classroom sizes, budget limitations within schools and the education system might be another issue. But yeah, I think it's probably better now than what it would have been.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they're more on top of it. And most importantly, I want to believe that the time where parents or teachers have dismissed specific needs to be met, like particular needs that students need, that students require, I'm sure your parents' generation, your grandparents, like it would have been unheard of to have all this and be like, oh no, my kid's normal. Certainly, my parents had a bit of that,
Yeah,
and that they were in their 50s. So, do you think that's a time
yeah.
of? Do you think that's gone? That
Uh,
era?
well, look, what here's the thing, and this is a generational thing. Um, my parents grew up in the 50s and 60s, for example. So the level of education that was going through at that time wasn't like it is now. They didn't have to go to university. They didn't have the technology that they had to be around. So you had more people that were like tradespeople. They were builders. They were blue collar workers. And, we didn't have the big financial systems that we've got nowadays. So when you're looking at, my generation and the parents of, which were the boomers, and my generation, these kids are now doing like their VCEs, they're in university, they're doing all this sort of stuff, but they've had that opportunity to extend their education further. So, a lot of my generation were, you had to pretty much go to university or to get some sort of qualification post secondary school to be able to, get a fairly decent job. Nowadays, if you don't have that university degree, if you don't have that higher education, you are really limiting your career options. For example, if you want to go into accounting, back in my day, you could do a TAFE course. and start doing your accountancy, and then you go on and do your degree. Not so much a degree, but you can be a certified practicing accountant. Same with financial planning, which is where my area used to be. I have an advanced diploma, and back 10 years ago, I said, no, you've actually got to have a degree. And the whole idea of me going back and doing a degree was not going to happen. So I kind of gave that, that aspect away. And I thought, no, I'll just stick to what I'm doing, then I'm fine. But because I didn't have that degree or to be able to go do postgrad, that kind of limited my career a little bit. And I think this is something that our education system is basically shaped to the world in which we live and is there to facilitate. People with neurodiversity might have gone, I'm going to become a bricklayer, or I'm going to be a builder, or I'm going to be an electrician or a plumber or whatever, something that they were able to do. And oftentimes they'll be in and out of jobs quite a bit because of undiagnosed issues, whereas now we're able to identify it a little bit easier. And I think the help is there probably a little bit better than what it, well, definitely a lot better than what it was. But yeah, it still needs a lot of improvement though.
Yeah, sounds like
Long way going around about answering that question.
Now, sounds like it's coming a long way, which is good. We want all the
Yeah,
help we need for the next generation to succeed. So we've covered school,
yeah,
we've covered everyday life. What
yeah.
about sleep, Jeff? The most important section of your life
Oh,
is optimal sleep.
yeah.
How's that been?
Um, yeah, look, this is the interesting part for us ADHDers. Without medication, we doom scroll ourselves into oblivion. With medication, some of the side effects are, yes, you're taking basically, in some cases, it is an amphetamine. It's not methamphetamine, it's dexamphetamine. There is a difference. With the dexamphetamine and some of the other medications, they can affect sleep. Of a night time, if you've taken medication during the day, the medication's wearing off at night, but it's all too easy then for the ADHD brain to kick in, look for dopamine. So I could be up, hyper focused on, it could be something insane that's on YouTube, for example. And it's a case of, why am I looking up bardcore songs of, covers of popular songs done in medieval style at 1 a.m. in the morning? I like that song. That was really good. I'm going to find another one. And that's what the brain does. And then you end up going, body's tired, brain's awake. And then you've just got to go, I need to stop now. I've got to work tomorrow. Yeah, I think really if you're on medication, or if you, even if you know that you have ADHD and you're not on medication, you've got to set up a nighttime routine to be able to go, okay, 10:30, that's it. Everything goes off. I'm going to read.
That's so
Um,
important.
yeah, exactly. Get your eyes away from the screens, which would be, I'd probably say, a great percentage of what you need to do is just get away from the screens. The other thing that really does help, and this is something I need to do more of, is exercise. The body needs to channel out some of that energy because otherwise it goes straight to the head. And then you're up all night because the body's got tension, energy that it needs to expend. And if you're not, you need to get the body tired to get the brain tired. And you need to wear the brain out. And that's really what exercise does, good exercise, to wear the brain out. Let you take control of it, don't let it control you. So that would be the big thing. I'm still working on it. I still have my moments where I'm up until 2 a.m., but I'm trying to put in place a practice now that says, hey, I've got to do better.
I'd say we're all in that spot, Jeff, wanting to get better, especially again with this the screens can continue to be addictive. And you mentioned exercise as well. World's Strongest Man of 2017, Eddie Hall, has detailed his struggle with ADHD and managing his condition with exercise.
Yeah, I might actually look that up. That's kind of interesting, actually. Yeah, it's surprising who has ADHD when they, looking at those that have had it, how they've battled it. Not so much. I hate the term battle, and because I
Manage.
don't think it should. Yeah, It's managing. If anyone's listening to this, if you haven't or not aware of it, there is a guy by the name of Ren on YouTube, and he's a musician rapper. His stuff is absolutely amazing, but he did this one piece that went absolutely viral, and it's called Hi Ren. And it tells of his struggle. Now, he had Lyme disease, but what it ended up doing is that he had all these psychological disorders that were coming on top of it as well. And it's basically, I'd say watch it, definitely watch it at the end, but and right through. But at the end, he says something I think is absolutely valuable for anyone, regardless of whether you have ADHD or other disorders or whatever battle you're facing. He said, um, you know, the angrier and the harder he got, the more he found that he stumbled, but he learned to dance, and in doing so, he was able to manage a lot better. And it is a dance. Not everything is always bad, not everything is always good. But when you're able to dance with it, when you're able to move with it, to be able to go, okay, I need to correct this, I need to correct that. It's taking the right steps. And that's why I like the analogy of the dance. It's not a battle, it's a dance. Encouragement's great, but I think people just being aware of what's going on. This is what I need to do. This is why I need to do it. If you see me doing the wrong shit, tell me. And look, families are great for that. They'll tell you in no uncertain terms. Good friends will say, "Hey, you're being a dick." So really, it's that whole correct, don't punish thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And to clarify as well, neurodivergent isn't a medical term. It's a way to describe people using words other than normal and abnormal.
It, it it's a basket that carries many different types of clinical. So when ADHD is in what's known as the DSM, which is the diagnostic standard manual for psychiatrists and doctors and so forth. So if they say it's in the DSM, it can be categorised, treated, the clinical treatments and everything like that. So the DSM stands as the Bible of neuro diseases, conditions, and so forth. So neurodiversity extends from anything that's different. So it's probably easier to go, okay, that's neurotypical, and then everything else is neurodiverse. But it goes back to my argument that I don't think there is such a thing as neurotypical. I don't believe in a neurotypical individual because everyone's brain is different. We're all wired differently. Our synapses and neuron connections, the amount of chemicals that flow through our noggin are going to vary, not just individually, but from moment to moment. So trying to identify something as, neurotypical is probably difficult. But where you have measures outside of the norm, so if you look at a bell curve, for example, in statistics, everything is higher in the centre, but it's these outliers, the smaller amounts at the edges. They're the ones that will throw that measure off, and that's where neurotypical comes into it. So it's those outside the bell curve.
Okay, well, yeah, a good insight into what that whole definition is, and we got a few more questions for you, El Jefe, and then we may wrap this one up.
Yeah.
If you could meet your younger self in the depths of struggle as Mini Jeff, what would you tell him?
Oh, that's a difficult one because I would probably scare the hell out of myself going, "Oh God, what happened to me?" So, but look, if I could go back and plant a seed, it's difficult to put an older head on younger shoulders, as it were. But what I would probably say is speak up. Um, Say that there is a problem. Maybe if I did get diagnosed earlier, and then again, I had no idea. No one had any idea, especially in Australia. It wasn't really a thing back in the late 70s, early 80s for a kid to be diagnosed with what I had. I wasn't autistic. They knew that because I was really smart, but being able to identify it differently and separately was the thing. But I'd say I would have told myself, speak up.
Great. Good words of advice there, Jeff. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people with ADHD tend to receive?
That we're idiots, that we're exceptionally gifted in some areas. We're not. We don't fall outside of the IQ means. Where we can be somewhat creative, and that's only because of the way in which we're able to encapsulate information quickly and process it quickly. I'm really great at finding problems and solutions. I go, yep, that's a problem. What do I think is causing that problem? I'm pretty good at doing that sort of stuff. However, actually getting me to fix the problem, never going to happen. So um, that's, I think one of the misconceptions can be is that we're a bit, we're either, exceptionally created and gifted, which we're not. We're not, morons. We're not idiots. We do have quite a bit of intelligence. Intelligence is separate from, and there are different types of intelligences, of course. We can be a little bit, and look, we do stand out as different when you get to know us. You go, something not quite right, not quite normal, but I'll accept them for who they are, or there's something not quite right here. They're not with us. You're not with me here. You're not following, or yeah, but they'll take it as offensive. They're talking to someone with ADHD and their brains are off elsewhere, and then they'll sort of do that head shake. Oh, hello, I'm back. Yes, yeah, and boom, boom, and they're taking in everything, but it's the way that they're processing's a little bit different. So also, it's going to vary depending upon types of neurodiversities. Some people with ADHD, as I said, comorbidities can surround it. So some might have paranoia, some might have bipolar, some might have depression. There can be some might even maybe on the autism spectrum because there is a lot of people on the autism spectrum will present with ADHD like symptoms. It can be a little bit disconcerting sometimes. People with Asperger's, for example, tend to also show strong indications towards ADHD. It is a little bit different. However, with Asperger's, they won't get the distraction, they'll get the hyperfocus, which is it's part of ADHD, but they'll present more strongly on hyperfocus, for example. So, yeah, it's pretty much around that.